Hey everybody, welcome back to new videos channel, and today we look into the new alpha version of the self-hosted Nuxt Studio. Don't know what it is? Let's check it out. Here we go. Nuxt Studio, originally developed by Nuxt Labs, is a CMS for all your Nuxt websites running with Nuxt content. And before, this was a classic software as a service application. You couldn't self-host it, it was just online. When Nuxt Labs got bought by Vercel, though, this was meant to change. In the announcement, it was already mentioned that all the software as a service applications should first of all become free. And I mean, that's a big plus point, right? But also they should become self-hostable. So you don't have this actual software as a service application there, you could just self-host it. That also means that everything that runs as a SaaS will be discontinued at the end of the year. And this is in full progress. So there's not that much time until end of the year. That's why we have the first alpha of Nuxt Studio, the self-hosted version, out there right now. And of course, we also got a great blog post from beginning of this week at the time of recording, where the previously Nuxt Labs teams, in this case Sebastian, Ahad, and Baptiste, they were outlining, okay, what is in the first alpha, what's in there, what's not in there, etc., etc. We'll have a look into that. We'll set the whole thing up ourselves and see what's changed, and also see the capabilities of Nuxt Studio. It's important that they mention that the visual editor is not part of this alpha yet. So the visual editor is coming, this like Notion inspired experience, right? For Markdown, some form-based editing, etc., etc. Also, it only works with GitHub authentication right now. So no Google Auth yet, but they still aim for a release for end of year 2025 for everything stable. So that's not too much time, which also means they are working very hard on that day and night. And I'm really excited to see that release. Plus, beyond that, when the whole transformation to something that's fully self-hostable with all the features is done, I am looking forward to quite some more features. Two features in particular I'd love to see in Nuxt Studio, but also in Nuxt content, as they are quite interwoven nowadays, is having support for actually relations between collections and then having them nested. So to say, oh yeah, let's connect, I don't know, a blog post with an author and make sure they're actually like properly connected, and you can set it up in a form for everyone who's not that technical. And the other feature is, of course, schema validation on build to make sure that all the things are actually working. These are two features that are requested in the Nuxt content repository. And of course, some of them are also actually on the roadmap, which is great. So they're work in progress. Unfortunately, of course, there are a lot of things to do, so they didn't have the highest priority. Let's see how that will change. And I'm curious if you have any feature requests, drop them down below. Don't forget, links won't work on YouTube, so just name them and maybe an issue number if you have one. If there is no issue, feel free to raise one, because there will be probably more people wanting the feature if you want to. But now let's jump into the application. And to get started, we don't have a minimal application here, so I don't want to bore you with all the details. We have a few things set up here. And the first thing is, so basically what happens is we just ran a pnpm nuxt create, and then we created the whole thing. We chose to have Nuxt content as our module, and then eventually we added Nuxt Studio as the second module. Now, then we have our styles here, the usual things inverted, well, the dark mode for people who don't want to implement the dark mode, right? Please don't do this on your actual website. This is just for the purpose of the video, so you don't have flashbang every time I switch to browser. And then our studio setup, which basically just says, okay, GitHub is the provider that's only supported at the moment for that module, and I am the owner, and there's the repository. This is for the Nuxt config itself. It's important, if you use pnpm and you use Nuxt content, also make sure to allow to build better SQLite 3. Otherwise, you will have some issues, so that's not good. Make sure this is available. And then I also added a content config TS, which just says, hey, all our content is in the content folder by default, and everything is a page, so it's a one-on-one mapping, and it's just all the markdown files. And then I have that index MD here with just some content, and we're good to go. On the actual app side, so as view components, we have our app.view, which is the default. We can even remove that if we want to. Then we just have a catch-all page that just renders, depending on the path, the correct file. So it just gets the path passed in, and then it will fetch the whole thing from Nuxt content through query collection, and then uses the content renderer component to render the whole thing, or gives a little text if the page is not found. Now, this is it from the code perspective. Now, there's one more thing we have to do to set up Nuxt Studio properly, because in the end, what Nuxt Studio will do is, well, it has a GitHub application that then hooks into our repository and does commits. So whenever someone changes things, well, this is committed straight away. The source of truth are your markdown, etc. files. So we need to get that access for the Nuxt Studio setup, right? And to do so, we go into our GitHub profile, and then all the way at the bottom, we have developer settings here. And if we open that and go to OAuth applications, then we can create a new authentication application. It's actually necessary. You have to create one per Nuxt Studio instance, so one per application you have basically. And I already did this. If you want to try it locally, just fill out localhost 3000 here. And if you want to deploy it, then either use a different application or change that to make sure this is the right URL. So as mentioned, I already did that here on Nuxt Studio self-hosted. And if we have a look here, then we also see this is already set to our test URL, Nuxt Studio Alpha Demo Netlify app. And that's all. You will get a secret you should not show anyone else. And you have a client ID, which is public, so that's fine. And these two things you have to put in your applications.env file. Also make sure if you put them in here, I added an env example. So of course you don't see all the details, all the secrets, but make sure you also put them to your hosting platform whenever you deploy your application somewhere. That could be on any type, on your VPS, on Cloudflare, Netlify, etc., etc. So put them wherever you feel like. All right, and now we are on the Nuxt Studio Alpha demo application here hosted at Netlify. We have the content as you've seen before. And now what you want to do is, of course, open our studio. So we can just go to _studio here, and it will ask us to sign in here with the GitHub credentials. Of course, I did that already. I just showed it to you in a private window, so not automatically signed in. Here we also see to continue to Nuxt Studio self-hosted, so the GitHub app that we defined before. Or that you have set up. So let's quickly do that, and then we go into the studio part. And here we go. Now you see on the bottom left, you have this edit this page option, also the sidebar. So if you click here, you will see all the sidebar with the content comes up, with the media, like the fav icon. Okay, mind you, the hue is rotated and everything, and it's inverted. So this is, of course, it would be green otherwise, you know the drill. And here we have home, and of course we can edit this straight away. So here we could, for example, say, hello YouTube. Mind, as you see, we get the preview for it straight away. We can use components in here as well if we want to in the MDC format. This all works as before. The only thing you don't have here right now is that visual experience, but of course that will happen in the beta release. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, what we can do, we can just write hello YouTube here. We click on review. We see what's happening here in our little div. Of course, also here, hue rotated due to our filter program from before, and we can just say our commit message is classic work in progress, and we could click publish. And now what's happening is that a commit will be made from this GitHub application, and now it says, okay, published on main. You can of course also have feature branches or preview branches, etc., etc. And now we just wait for deployment. And while we do that, we have a look at the commit itself. And here we are on the repository, which should be public by the time the video is out, but of course not before, so we don't get any sneak peek in here. And if you see here, we have the work in progress commit made by myself through the application. So we see hello YouTube. And now, of course, what's happening is that Netlify is triggering rebuilding. And whenever this has happened, then we also see that this waiting for deployment here changes. So just in a couple seconds when the website has been redeployed, we have the option to say like, okay, please just reload your application. And then we see that. In the meantime, if we, for example, just open this application in yet another tab, there we go. We already see hello YouTube. So this happened. Now it just needs a second to actually make sure this has been recognized by Nuxt Studio, because of course it doesn't fetch any second, and then we're good to go. But we already see the changes, which is pretty amazing, and then we can continue working on that if we want to, or just say like, hey, you know what, let's just hide that, and we're good to go. And that is the whole story. And here we see this deployment complete. We can click on reload the application, and we have the hello YouTube content in there. All right, but what if we want to do some local development and use Nuxt Studio? I mean, this also should be possible. Of course, to use the whole like experience in the editor for your live website, you need to deploy it somewhere. Of course, you can pre-render all the other parts of the application, but the Nuxt Studio instance itself, well, that needs to run with a server, as you need server-side authentication, etc., etc., which shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, and that's it. That's a little preview of the recent Nuxt Studio self-hosted alpha. Let me know your thoughts on it. As said before, also drop down your features that you would like to see in Nuxt content or Nuxt Studio, maybe what you're waiting for, and general ideas, suggestions, feedback, comments, as usual down below. You know where to put them. And well, that was the second video for this week. Last week's video was a little bit delayed. That's why it came on Monday. So I hope you enjoyed it too, where we talked about Rendu. Other than that, I can only say see you all next week, Friday latest, or around the channel or online. Until then, have a lovely time and happy hacking, folks. See ya.